Hello and welcome to the BBC 100 Women Masterclass. It's been an exciting day and this is the final session. So for the first ever digital event held by BBC 100 Women, we want you to chill out, smile and think of music. So my name is Jam Supernova. I'm a DJ and broadcaster on BBC Radio 1 Extra. And I'm very excited because for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to be chatting to some incredible artists and it's inspiring women from this year's 100 Women list. So let me first introduce my guests. So with me, I have the four-time Grammy Award winner, Angelique Kidjo, who's been dubbed the Queen of African Music, and for a reason. We have Kieran Gandhi, aka Madam Gandhi, who's a singer, producer, percussionist, and activist. And we also have Anna Tijoux, a Chilean hip hop protester, solo singer since the late 1990s, and Latin Grammy winner. Well, Anna, how's your day been so far? Where are you based?
I'm moving all the time, but I'm moving through Chile and Europe. I'm making one travel to one place to another.
We also have on the line Kieran Gandhi, aka Madam Gandhi, singer, producer, percussionist, and activist. Hey, Kieran, how are you?
Good to see you. Good. I'm really good. I'm so happy to be here with you both. I adore you both.
Do you two know each other, are aware of each other musically anyway?
Yes,
Yes,
of course.
I'm super fan. I'm super fan. In this pandemic, we are all trying to write music and move the energy through creating something.
All of us have so many emotions, and many of us are experiencing it in isolation. And it's this enormous, beautiful responsibility of the musicians to channel that and say, what are the collective feelings and how can we write about it so that folks have music that we can all be healing to and connecting through. So I really related to that. And on a personal note, I have my highs and lows. Like some days I feel it's really easy to write new music and write new songs. And then other days I feel really blocked because energetically I'm also feeling the collective sadness.
So we've all had that sort of moment where you've been listening to a song either in the club or on the radio and you're like bopping away, you're vibing away, and then suddenly you kind of have a deeper listen and you hear the lyrics and you're a little bit like, oh, slightly offended by that, feels a bit misogynistic. So Anna, I want to start with you as a lifelong hip hop lover. Was there a turning point when you realized maybe some of the music you listened to in your formative years maybe had lyrics that went against your morals?
I remember I used to listen a lot of hip hop, North American hip hop or English hip hop, and I couldn't understand all the lyrics when I was a teenager. So I begin to trying to translate everything to understand, but at the same time, I could feel the energy. I fall in love with the energy for so many songs, and I feel represented in some place where hip hop, I think it was the land of the people with no land. So after I decided to rap and make freestyle like a lot of friends, and that's the way I open this box of creating and entering hip hop music.
Yeah. When you were listening to maybe other people within the scene, were you listening to their lyrics and what they were saying?
Yes, I mean yes, but I don't understand everything to be honest, because
Hmm.
sometimes in some language you get slang, and it's very different. You don't find that in dictionary.
Of course.
But at the same, but you can also fall in love. I insist, like, I don't understand everything, and I think lyrics is very important because I think one is the stuff that take us from us, like this deep intensity to say something in our songs. But I don't understand everything, of course, because there is so
Yeah.
many slang, and is very specific to each country.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've definitely experienced that. I'll be bopping along thinking this is like a turn up record and it's about quite a deep issue. And we'd like to bring in Angelique Kidjo right now. She is four-time Grammy Award winner and she has been dubbed the Queen of African Music. So Angelique, yeah, that's what they told me, and and I believe it. Angelique,
Oh
please
boy.
meet Madam Gandhi and please meet Anna Tijoux.
I've been listening to you guys on and off because my computer was just, technology when it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So what are you going to do?
Well, you're here now. So we
Well,
just
that's
sort of jumped in, and that was it, really. We're just talking about sort of the beginnings of when you first start listening to music and maybe thinking about the content of the music that you're listening to. I mean,
Right.
Angelique, did you have that experience of maybe when you were growing up, maybe listening to some songs and suddenly, listening with a different ear as you've gotten older and being like, maybe that was a bit misogynistic?
Hmm. Oh, wow. Well, misogynistic song everywhere. I mean, there's no era for that. It runs deep the our humanity, pretty much, I have to say. And the thing that was really important to me was the empowerment of other women in that misogynistic surrounding that still prevail. So I decided that I'm gonna just follow that example and just go for it. And if a guy don't like me, I mean, I had a fiance that say, well, if I marry you, you're not gonna sing. And my reply to him was, you know what, you can leave right now, and I'm not gonna turn back and really regret you are out of my life. So I also have a father that really always told me talent has no gender. So go out there and show them. So all the songs that
Brilliant.
that play down women, I said, it shows the fragility, the insecurity, and the fear of men, of women, from women. That's the thing. I mean, if you are a man, why do you want to put down a woman? You don't exist if the woman don't exist. Who gave you birth? Do you come from a tree? And it has always been that. My mom always said the fear of men come in the womb of a woman. From that point on, they are not in charge. They can't be in charge until they are born. So that kind of insecurity that they come to the world with is something that is still fueling the patriarchal that we are living in.
Yeah, yeah, and that kind of leads me on nicely to Madam Gandhi. You kind of have, I guess, like a not necessarily a philosophy, but a statement that it's not about giving people. It's about it's about giving people an option, but not trying to necessarily control what other artists are saying. How does that play a role in the music that you put out as an option?
I love that question. I think just as my co-panelists were sharing, I feel so often I listen to music that's being put out now, that's been put out throughout the past couple of decades, and I love the rhythms and I love the melodies and I love the production. And then I'll listen to the lyrics and I'll be aghast at the degree to which we tolerate misogyny and encourage misogyny for power in our culture. And no one checks it. I don't see the men check it. I don't really see the women check it. I don't see enough folks question it and ask, why are we tolerating this? I think my theory around why we tolerate it is that oftentimes the music is so good. And that's why I really found it such a fascinating dynamic when Anna was talking about how sometimes she doesn't know what the lyrics mean because it's a different language and there's slang involved. And I actually thought, what a blessing, because you can actually just receive the passion and the pain and the experience and the humanity of that person and not have to deal with the negativity that's also involved. And then also when Angelique was speaking, I was really fascinated by this concept of men feeling an insecurity from the birth of the womb. And there's also a very famous psychologist named Karen Horney in the 50s who talked about how because men can't give birth, which is the ultimate power, there is this sort of like ongoing need to constantly prove yourself, which is why we see this aggression. So there is a lot of deep philosophy. On the surface level, to bring it back to your question, I do think we can't tell other people how to make their music, but what we can do is provide and design the alternative. And I do love to turn up. I do love to party, but I don't want to have to turn up to the sound of my own oppression. And I'm sure you as a DJ must run into this a lot, Gems, where you want to play the newest stuff because the music is so good, but you also, I'm sure, hope and wish that you had other songs to mix in that carry that level of energy and good vibes without the misogyny and oppression that comes with it. So that's why not only do I think of that role as a DJ as so critical to provide people with alternatives, but I see the same role as an artist to do the same.
Yeah, that's something I've definitely been thinking about a lot is kind of even within the show or within the station that I am on is like, where's the balance? And how do we, if we're going to play this record, are we going to do a discussion about this? Are we going to, because, like you said, it's not about censorship, but I think it's about options and giving people the variety to pick and choose where they want to go and where they get information and then come up with their own sort of formative view. I think what's beautiful is that each of you come from sort of different generations within the music industry from when you started out. So I think it'd be interesting to find out a little bit about your entry into the industry and if there was any barriers and how those barriers may have shifted over time. So let's start with you, Angelique. You touched on it a little bit about your husband at the time, but when you were a young woman in Benin, what was it like to get into the industry? Oh, Angelique, I think we might have lost you. That's all right. We're going to come back to you, Angelique. Hold that. Anna, when you were starting out as a young woman in the industry, what was the sort of barriers that you may have been coming up against?
I mean, I guess like, you know what, like there is a lot of stuff that happened to me when I was younger, and I couldn't understand really at that time, and I understand sometimes right now what happened. I feel that I'm very slow sometimes with some situation, and I don't know. I think I've heard all kind of stuff that I couldn't rap, and it was a world of male, a lot of guys, and we was not very much women in Chile doing hip hop. I think we was 5 or 6 at that time, and uh, I don't know what happened, but at the same time, I think I had an education at home where they always teach me to be super like como secure with my voice, and I didn't care at that time if this industry was full of men. I was just secure about what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. But now that I'm older, I remember so many situations like for example, I don't know, when they take you a picture and they say, can you smile to the camera, please, you're a woman, or this kind of stuff that you hear all the time in this industry, or how you should present yourself in this industry, the way you dress, the way that you show up, you know so I think it's a battle, is a sorry, it's a battle that will continue, because we are still on that until today, and that's what make it very interesting.
Thank you. And what about you, Kieran? As a producer, and and as a person that plays and been on the road with, I'm sure quite male heavy touring team. What's your experience into the industry been like?
I love this question, and I really relate to many of the things that Anna was talking about in terms of us as women having to like perform our femininity in order to be accepted in the industry. I think I was I grew up in New York City. I had two fairly traditional Indian parents, but luckily both of them were very encouraging of my drumming and would like take me for drum lessons in the middle of Times Square, where people are like smoking weed outside the studio. You get exposed to a lot of the different just ways that the music industry is, the griminess of it.
And I mean, listening to them, it brings me back to when I started, and pretty much the same thing. I had a father that really, I mean, father, mother, brothers, my whole family were really supportive of me. I started singing at the age of 6 in the theater group of my mother. And my father at one point started filming my shows and will give me a week of leave, and then we'll project it. And it's the worst critics I ever had was my family, because they wanted me to not to sit comfortably and thinking that I'm the best at what I do, that I can be better. And I grew up with 7 brothers. Machism, I grew up with it, but my mom was the one always reminding my brothers that they cannot treat their sister like objects. My father was always on the back of my brothers telling them, you have to respect every woman. You raise a hand on a woman, you come back to this house, you are no longer my son. So I grew up in the respect of myself and respect of other people. But I think that this misogyny has come with our humanity from the beginning, from the get-go. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, if you educate yourself, you realize that it's only us women, by raising little boys, if we become mothers of boys, to break the chain of misogyny. It starts with us. We have to raise them to let them understand that they are not superior to their sisters. That is not because they are men that they have more right than their sisters. And we haven't been able to do this generation after generation. I was born with men surrounding me, supporting me, without never telling me, because you're a woman, you can't speak up. Because you're a woman, you can't sing. And I really pretty much, I have to tell you from the beginning, I don't care. You are a man, you're telling me how I'm going to dress, because when I started, they were like, why are you doing your album photo session without showing your titties? Isn't that how you guys walk around in Africa? I'm like, well, did you guys still dress like the Neanderthals people? I mean, I don't want to show my titties. I have always been in control of my image. It's a struggle, but more you struggle, more you know what you want, more men see you like not likable, Or some men will tell you you're very hard to work with because you're not there saying yes to everything they say. I'm like, you can't work with me. Don't blame me because you can't. That's it.
I want to pick up on something that's come up twice. Is kind of based around image and the expectations of when you're thinking about an artist that happens to be a woman. So we've had this in on Twitter. It says, "I prefer female artists that wear clothes rather than put it all on show. Too many stars do this. Nakedness is not empowerment." What do you think?
People have to be free to dress as you want. If they feel comfortable wearing what they want to wear, fine. But it depends on people's taste. If you want to be empowered by if somebody, it's not the way people dress that empowers you. It's what the person is saying. It's what the music is about. So if you are concerned about the fact that the person is dressing naked, almost naked, then you have an issue with your own body. But everybody have a different way of being sexy. For me, being sexy had never been being naked. That's me. And it's only concerned me. Only me. Anyone that get undressed and is feeling happy with it, go for it.
Yeah, Madam Gandhi, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I do agree with that. And it is a liberating thought to think that it's just about our own freedom, and that also, like, how do we feel sexy and how does that come through the music? Because that is empowering. And I do think when I think of Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion, I mean, no one has like cornered this concept of sexiness in our mainstream market now, and female pleasure and like experiencing pleasure through sexuality. I think there is an enormous feminist kind of component there. I do think, unfortunately, we live in a world where as soon as you are naked, I do think it waters down the content, because we live in this culture that overly distills women to our sex and sexuality and doesn't give us the space to be valued for our skill sets. And so the second you participate in that, even if it is for your own liberation, I feel like it only reaffirms that stereotype instead of breaking through it. So I do wish we lived in a vacuum situation where like we can express our own sexuality however we want. But I do think it translates in a way that is reductive and can be distracting from what it is that we're saying, and also from being able to command the respect of those who we're trying to connect with.
Two very good points there. Anna, I have a question that might be more leaning towards you. So this is from Mila Mapolas on Instagram. She said, "Why do you think that some Latin American musicians who write misogynistic lyrics are so popular among young people when they're often the most active against macho culture?"
Well, first of all, thank you, Mila. I think one stuff is what put the industry to listen, and the other is what kind of music we got in Latin America. We got so many different kind of music. After, I'm sure that the industry decided to put some misogynic music, but it's so many brother and sister that doesn't make that music, and they are not in the radio. So I don't want to make like the postal of Latin American, like these macho lyrics, because there is a lot of people that make all the kinds of lyrics also with another message. I think Latin America is such a complex and such a rich continent, very diverse. So there is amazing cumbia, samba, candombe, vals peruano, whatever, etc., salsa. And there is some amazing lyrics, but lamentablemente, I don't know why sometimes radio love to put one kind of lyrics on the radio.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that can be, I guess,
can I also
spoke
add
about
to
on
that?
all sorts of radio. Yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, I feel like we do have that problem globally, whereby folks who might be considering themselves activists are still listening to music that contributes to the oppression of women and queer folks and feminine people. I think we tolerate it for a couple of reasons. One, I mentioned earlier, just that we love the beat and the production, and it's just a good song end to end. So then we listen to it anyway, and we kind of like ignore the negative side. The second reason I think we tolerate it is that oftentimes those artists, even if they are creating oppression towards women, they're creating freedom and talking about like wonderfully liberating things in other arenas, whether they're criticizing the government or abuse of power or, lack of access to resources or criticizing capitalism. Like, I see that duality all the time, where they're seeking liberation in one lane while contributing to oppression in another lane. And then I think the last thing I wanted to bring up was really the issue of race, especially because I think there's got to be a larger nuance in the conversation when we think about like hip hop as a genre, and looking at how there's been so much oppression towards Black men in our society, and there's this kind of need for power. And so then if you're not getting your power as being seen as a man and being able to enjoy your masculinity, however we want to define that, does it then translate to misogyny as a result? And how can we kind of show up in solidarity for that, so that we can stop being misogynist?
Yeah, man.
Well,
No,
it
I
works also
completely
with
agree
black
on all those
people.
points.
Black women also are, I mean, you're talking about black men, black women too. I mean, people have some, especially when you come from Africa, people have the phantasma about black woman sexuality, and they know nothing about it. And you hear people saying, well, why don't you show your leg a little bit? Why don't, I'm like, get out of my face, man. What are you talking about?
Tell him,
Go away.
Angelique. You tell him. I mean,
Go
we're
away,
talking
man.
about radio, and for so many artists, radio is seen as a milestone of success to have your music played on the radio. So do you think that, this is a question to you all, you are outspoken artists, you have a message, you know, your message leans towards positivity and empowerment. Do you think that can sometimes come with a hindrance towards success?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I'm an example of it big time. Since the beginning of my career has always been like that. And also, if you look at the social network, as soon as you bring into the table some profound and deep conversation that we can have, that is not frivolous, it's not about going to your supermarket or doing this or doing that, people just don't want to get engaged in having any profound and changing conversation. The same thing work with music for people from like me, that not necessarily don't sing in English. I started my career singing in my native languages, and it's hard.
And that's what kind of, I guess, brings me to each of you guys on the panel. You have the intersectionality of your gender, but your heritage as well, or the cultures that you come from. And when I'm looking for music for my radio show, for me, I want to hear those stories. I don't care where you are in the world. I want to hear your stories. I want to know how your culture has influenced the stories that you want to tell and how you want to tell those stories. So, Madam Gandhi, how important is it to have diversity across the music that we choose to listen to?
I mean, of course, it's incredibly important. I think also I think we as a society don't give enough power to music. So many times when I engage in this conversation about sexism in the lyrics, majority of folks respond, "Oh, but I'm not listening to the lyrics. Like, I'm just dancing. I'm just turning up to the music. I'm just working out to it." But I don't trust that. I do think that the things that we hear do affect how we understand culture, how we understand our role in terms of our gender identity, our sexual orientation, our racial or heritage identity. So I think we have to be very selective. And then when you talked about the kind of solidarity almost to our own heritage versus the solidarity, let's say, to the queer, like in my case, like the queer community or other women or things like that, I feel very critical about my Indian heritage. Like, I'm more than happy to say, of course, I love that India has the biggest, film industry, which is Bollywood, and as a result has a very thriving music industry because there's albums associated with each film that comes out, and there's hundreds of films that come out each year. But they're very much perpetuating problematic stereotypes and notions of what it means to be beautiful. We have a constant issue with women's skin being lightened and edited, whether it's in the media or it's in film or television. We have a constant commitment to the stereotype of sort of this good wife and the woman being rescued, or she's bad if she kind of goes and lives her own life. Like, there's a lot of really cheesy content, and it's been very stagnant for so many years. And even if I'm American Indian, I've lived enough in India. I go to India every year. My most recent music video, Waiting for Me, we shot it in India. I think it's important to be brave and bold and honest about what you love, about what your culture stands for, and what you think can be better.
Definitely. I want to talk about the playlist that you guys have built for BBC 100 Women. That's on your Spotify profiles. And you guys, I've listened to them. You've picked an amazing array of music. So, Anna, I really was drawn in by the hip hop that you picked, the female rappers that you picked. Talk to me about Little Simz. Why did you pick her? And that record, Venom?
Because she's amazing. she's a killer. Like, I remember we played the same festival of Gorillaz in Los Angeles, and we was on the same stage. I performed before her, and I love her flow. I love her energy. Like, she's one of the best female MC for me. One for the flow, the energy. I don't know, everything that she is. You know, I think she's a fresh, so fresh in her generation, and I always love like English hip hop. That is very different from North American hip hop. Even from the way that you talk, and you can feel it in the way that you rap, no? And that's why I put her, and I put all different like female that I'm more than in love, like I'm super fan basically.
Yeah, I love that record. I've played it at festivals, and the way that, you know, the way that it drops into it is just incredible. And what she's saying as well, seeing a front row of women going absolutely crazy to it is amazing. So, Madam Gandhi, talk to me about Santigold.
When I first heard Santigold, I was in a bar in college, and it played on like a jukebox, and I like looked around, and I was like, what is this? Like, I just felt the sound was so futuristic. I felt like instant energy, like I just wanted to like dance and like thrash around, and I just was so inspired by Creator. And it was obviously very similar to how I felt when I first heard MIA's music, and I just felt so excited to experience women pushing sonic boundaries. I felt so excited to see so much like femininity infused in like really high energy music. It was so creative and so liberating. And then I'll never forget, I went to Germany. I was visiting a friend in Berlin like a year and a half later, and I made it to the front row of the Santigold show. And then into the mic, like halfway through the show, she's like, and by the way, you right here, and she pointed to me, you've been dancing your ass off like this whole show. Get up here on the stage with me, like come dance with us. And so she pulled me and a couple other women up onto the stage, and it was like it just made my year. You know, I felt so seen and included and valued. So again, it's just one of those wonderful things where you love the artist and you're a fan of them, and then you actually get to experience them as a person, and they're a genuine and cool person.
Yeah, definitely. When I heard the record, the Disparate Youth that you put into the playlist, it kind of makes sense with listening to your music side by side as well. Angelique, how did you go about curating your playlist for the BBC 100 Women?
Well, I choose the songs that I'm listening lately, and the song that really empower me as a young girl to dream about becoming an artist one day. That's how I picked it. So it is a journey. My musical journey is so diverse, and in one of my album, I even sing in Hindi because I grew up in Benin, West Africa, where we used to. I mean, every Sunday I will go to Indian movies, and I mean, it's amazing the culture that I grew up in. It's so diverse, and everything was brought home by my father, my mother, my brothers, for us all to be able to rally around it. And one of the first Black women I saw on the cover of an album was Aretha Franklin and Miriam Makeba, of course, and Tina Turner, The Energy. I met Amy Winehouse in London. We were doing a show to pay tribute to Billie Holiday, and she started singing, and I was just like, I'm gonna just have a heart attack right here. And of course, Alicia Keys is one of my friends. Yemi Alade is the new generation of young girl that's coming from Africa that are really killing it. Yoko Ono is Lisa Ono is also a Japanese singer that covers some of my song Ominira, which means freedom. And of course, Celia Cruz is the queen of salsa. I mean, I grew up listening to Celia Cruz. The first time I saw Celia Cruz in Africa, suddenly she flipped my life upside down. Till she came to the stage, I thought salsa was just a male-dominated genre of music. And she walked out and said, Asuka! And started singing. And I look at the guys, I'm like, you guys going to have some work to do to catch up with this lady. She's going to kill you. And of course, Sarah McLachlan, I did Lily Fair with her. Such a wonderful artist. And she already, I mean, that Lily Fair festival that we did was to raise money. Every ticket that was bought, a percentage, I think $1 or $5 goes to shelter for women that goes through abuse. So it has always been all those things that really inform my career to to be empowered and to be able to empower other people is what I put on my first Spotify playlist.
Yes, definitely. You can go and check them out. We put them on our BBC posts that have been in regards to 100 Women. We spoke about some of the issues that have like arisen that we know that are in music, with whether it be lyrics, whether it be the way we want to convey ourselves and things like that. But each of your playlists is pure positivity, is pure joy. So where do you guys go to find music that speaks to your morals? Let's start with you, Anna.
Where I find that kind of music?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know. Sometimes I can go to a house of a friend and I listen to amazing music and I say, what is that? And then I begin to make research or ask. But I got to be honest, like I love to listen new music, but I love all music also. I always come back to older like singer and from Latin America, and I don't know, those kind of songs that make you remember where you are and where you want to go. So sometimes I love to listen like new stuff, and sometimes I come back to other. But I've got to be honest, like I think my friends are very important in this, because I've got friends that I got very good taste. Sorry for my English. Que tienen muy buen gusto, and I'm always asking to them, "What are you listening? What is that? Please, like, show me, show me." It's curiosity, I guess. Like, or sometimes I'm walking in the street and I say, "What is this?" And I do Shazam, and then I keep it. I do a lot, because there is so many amazing artists around the world that I can tell you one way to arrive to that music.
Similarly to Anna, I like looking at the past, and I like looking at the present. And Anna, I just wanted to say, like, on a personal note, you really are so good at like supporting other musicians. Like, I've experienced it firsthand, and it's just so genuine. It makes me emotional thinking about that. But you really are so generous with your support of up and coming talent, because I've been listening to your music for 20 years or however long, since 1977. How do you say it?
1977. Now you understand how it's difficult for me to speak English. My English is so bad. Like,
I wish my Spanish was that good.
I say interview in English. I said, I'm dead.
No, you're smashing it. You sound great.
You're so good. And I just really wanted to say that, Anna, you really are so good at supporting the next generation, and like being on Instagram and supporting and liking and sharing. Like, I always felt that from you. And when you're a fan of somebody who has such an established career, when you receive that love back, it means so much. And especially we as women, how Angelique is talking about, there's the next generation of women artists coming out of Africa to represent the diaspora. Like, the more established we are, and then we are so supportive bringing the next generation, it really makes such a difference. So to that point, noticing that, how that made me feel, the past 3 years, I have this really special project with my team called Own Your Voice. And every Wednesday we curate 30 songs from around the world of artists whom we think are using their music to own their voice and speak their truth and promote some kind of goodwill in their culture or their community or in the world. And it's been this amazing project, because it grew from 60, 70 followers on Spotify, and now we're at a couple of thousand, and people from around the world are sending me messages on Instagram like, can you consider this song for playlisting? And even when the men submit, they're like, there's no sexism, there's no misogyny, it's actually about my love for my mother. So people, it's challenging folks to really think more critically about the content of their music. And then they feel really grateful when they're playlisted, because they're playlisted alongside incredible other musicians who have a far more established career, and it's kind of like alternating. So that's been the way that I source my music, because it's a dedicated project. And then that's the way that I share up and coming artists who I think are doing a great job of owning their voice.
Brilliant. And you've kind of, like you said in your playlist, gone sort of, looking backwards and looking forward. My last question would be then, Anna, you said we don't make music to be young, we make music to be alive. So how could we flip that for a listener? They should be listening to music that makes them feel. And I'd like each of you to kind of finish the sentence. So let's start with you, Angelique. They should be listening to music to make them feel
happy, strong, loved, beloved, and empower other people. That's what music do. Music has no language, no boundary, no frontier, no color, and that's why we hear different people from Chile all the way down to Benin, West Africa. That's what music does. That's why we hear. And Anna, to your point, music. I mean, my drummer is from Chile. His name is Yayo Cerca. And he's always, I'm like, what is in Latin America today? He go, you know this, you know this, you know that, you know this. And I'll be listening to all those kind of different rhythm, and he'll be playing them for me. And I know more about the music of Latin America than sometime. And then I took him to Africa, and he started playing the drums. People start playing the drum, and he turned around, I said, hey, it's the same music. I mean, Africa is the cradle of humanity. If you hear the drum is in Africa, you hear it somewhere else. Doesn't matter.
Definitely.
That's what it is. That's what music is.
And Kieran, they should be listening to music to make them feel.
The first word that came to mind was liberated.
Brilliant. And Anna, to round off with you.
I would say is a BPM of emotion, es una fuerza, is love, is humanity, is a conviction with the planet, is a giveness in all sense. I think is pure energy and freedom.
Thank you so much. You guys have summed it. I couldn't even say anything better than everything you've said. It makes me feel so happy to be a part of music and to have seen all of everything that you guys have done, which is amazing. So thank you so much. If you have been watching this, then please go and check out the full playlist that Angelique, Anna and Kieran have created especially for us. So you can find them on post on the BBC page. And yeah, you can see what else has been happening across the masterclasses today. So thank you so much. Well, firstly, congratulations for being on the 100 Women list. And thank you so much for taking the time to be on this panel, Angelique Kidjo, Anna Tijou, and Madam Gandhi. And thank you for watching. That's all from us.
Thank you.